In this lesson 3 on Ableton Live, I want to show you the difference between a drum rack and other kinds of software instruments in Ableton Live. So under drums, this drum pad, if I click any one of these that actually have a name here, like Acoustic Australia Kit or Core Kit, these are preloaded samples. So if I grab this 909 Core Kit, I'm going to drag it into my window here, and you'll see that we have a number of sounds here already connected or loaded into a rack. So let me delete this, delete button, and delete this. So now that's gone. And I can also just load in an empty drum rack by clicking on this one that's just called drum rack. I'm going to click and drag that. And so now we get this empty, and so there's no sounds here. If I click, right, there's nothing there. So what these little numbers mean are these are actually notes. So C1, so if I play C1 on my MIDI keyboard, right, and now I play D1, right, so I have the track record enabled up here. And so as I play notes, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and you can see it's lighting up here, and you can also see that the notes are lighting up over here. So we have a bunch of different places we can load in our own samples if we want to. So this is a way that you could build your own drum rack with any sound that you want. And you can locate them wherever you want to. So the default is to start on C1, which is a very low note on the keyboard. I believe C4, this C4 is middle C typically. Okay, so depending on what kind of keyboard you have, you can choose a location where you want to put these samples. So for right now, I'm going to go here and just start on C1. And to load any sample into this, all I have to do is I can grab my own sounds, or I can also use sounds that come with Ableton Live. So if I go over to my browser window and go way down to this thing called samples, now we get a whole list of different samples. And so if I want to find something, so one thing I could do is just scroll through this and eventually find a sound, and I can click on them to try to hear them. Now, I'm not hearing anything yet. What I need to do is actually turn this little audition button on, and now I can hear the sound.
The good of passion are in the dale, are in the dale, are in the dale.
So there's all kinds of samples here.
Woo!
Okay, I want to grab that woo. I'm going to stick that. I'm going to drag it into here. And now when I play my C on my keyboard,
woo!
I can play that sound. Okay, and so there's all kinds of hits and things like that. If you want to, I'm going to turn this off for now. If you want to search for a particular sound, I can also search within this tab down under samples. So I can, for instance, hit like kick for a kick drum and hit return. And so here are a bunch of kicks. I'll turn auditioning back on. So I like that one. I'm going to grab that onto C sharp 1. And then maybe I'll grab a snare. So I'll look for snare. Okay, there's a basic snare. I'll drag that. So now I have 3 sounds loaded.
Woo! Woo!
All right, I'm just playing those notes from my keyboard. So you can add as many sounds here as you want, and they'll all be loaded into this drum rack. And the difference here is that if I hit any other note on my keyboard, so for instance, I hit like this note, which is probably like a D3, I think. Yep. There you can see it's way up on my keyboard. There's no sound assigned to this note, so I'm not going to hear anything. That differs from other kinds of instruments. So if I go to my instrument tab, and now, whoops, I'm going to turn off snare. So I'm not seeing much here because it's looking for anything that has a snare in it. So I'm going to clear this now, and there comes my library. So that's important to remember if you're doing a search, to then stop the search. So let me search again for, let's say, a piano sound. And hit return. And so now only piano sounds will show up here. So for instance, here's a bunch of synth keys, old school piano. I don't want that. Maybe one of these. Sure. So I'll drag this into this other track down here. So in the first track, I've got this drum rack with, whoops, nope, that's the wrong thing. So in this first track, I've still got my drum rack.
Woo! Woo!
Right, and I'm just playing that from my keyboard, playing the notes C1, C sharp 1, and D1. And if I activate or record enable this other track down here, now I've loaded this mellow piano. And so now the whole range of my keyboard is able to play every those notes, and they're all just being, right, so if I play like a C4, or a C1, or a C6, right? All those notes will now play as actual pitches. So that's the two big differences between the different kinds of instruments, software instruments that we have in Ableton Live. So these are more traditional sounding instruments that then are pitch-based, that will play a note based on the pitch of the note that we're playing on the keyboard, versus something like a drum rack, like what we have here, where we're actually loading a sample in and assigning it to a key, and the keys don't affect or change the pitch of it. It just plays that note. So again,
Woo!
that's a good place to end, I think.